Mr. President, up here! I voted for you! Wait a minute. That guy on the grassy knoll's got a gun. He's gonna shoot the president. Holy smokes, I've got to do something. All right, Lee. Time to become an American hero.
Darkmyths.org and Neopolis Media Group proudly present to you the Lone Gunman Podcast, featuring your host, Rob Clark, where research comes to shine and myths come to die. Stay tuned. Be right there.
There it is, folks. One last time, baby. What's up, everybody, and welcome to the show. This is your boy, Rob Clark. This is episode number 138, the last episode, Swan song for the Lone Gunman Podcast, if I can say it correctly, the Lone Gunman Podcast. And it's been a ride, man. It's been a trip. It's been real. It's been awesome. It's been frustrating. But no, in all seriousness, I've had the thrill of a lifetime doing this show. And I've met some great, great people that I now call friends. Those have been afforded to me just from having this show and sharing an interest in the Kennedy assassination and researching and, being sane about it. Being respectful about it, being like-minded about it, and I've had a lot of fun doing this show. You haven't heard much out of me in the past couple months. I've been kind of laying low. I was frustrated there for a while with the whole technical aspect of this show. Once again, it's hard for you guys out there in listener land to understand the technical aspects of doing one of these shows and having guests and recording and the sound and a million other things that go into actually making a show. It's not as easy as just sitting down and hitting a button and you have this awesome show. I wish it was. But there's a whole lot of logistics that goes into this, making a show and getting guests on and doing this sort of thing. And I was getting frustrated. Nothing I was doing was working. And it's very, very frustrating. And plus I was getting burnt out on the whole JFK thing, which, if you look into the assassination long enough, you will get what I call the JFK burnout, where you just can't take in any more information. You don't want to take in any more information. You've had your fill for a while. I mean, realistically, most of us out here have jobs. We have kids and family. There's life outside the JFK assassination, believe it or not, for some folks, most folks. Some folks I don't think there is. But, for most of us out there, we do have a life outside of the JFK assassination research community. And every once in a while, you look into this long enough, you will get burnt out when it comes to processing information, researching things. It takes a toll on you personally, mentally, physically. If you're reading all the time and you're thinking about this stuff all the time and you're having conversations about this stuff all the time, either be in person or online, or if you're listening to me or if I'm doing the show, every once in a while, it normally hits me every couple of years, like every 2 or 3 years, it hits me. I can't do anymore. I want nothing. I don't want to hear a damn thing about the JFK assassination. I could care less. But I've enjoyed doing this show, and when I first started doing the show 3 years ago, you know, me and Doug, my buddy over at the Dallas Action, who is killing it, by the way. Since his return, I think are some of the best shows that he's ever done. Since he's been up and sponsored by Wall Street Window and Michael Swanson, and I love listening to it now. He's got a longer format, and he goes really, really deep. So if you haven't checked out Doug's show in a while, I would encourage everybody to do so. He is still doing his show. He's putting out a show every other week, 2 episodes a month, and I definitely recommend that you check it out. When me and Doug, we got into this together. And for those of you who haven't been, asshole deep in the archives and went back to the very, very earliest of shows, I'll explain why. It used to be Black Op Radio was the only gig in town when you wanted to actually hear radio shows and information and authors speak about the assassination. Well, I can't say the only show in town, because there was Jim Fetzer's show, The Real Deal, before it got Gary Kinged. But as you all know by now, my opinion of Jim Fetzer has seriously waned throughout the years, as I believe he's reached some sort of insanity clause in his 70s. I don't know what it is. I honestly don't know what his deal is. My opinions range from paid disinformation to it doesn't even matter at this point. It is what it is, and it is what it was. And his shows are online. If you want to go listen to him and be brainwashed and listen to nonsense, he did have the occasional good show. Don't get me wrong. Even the dog, or even the sun shines on a dog's ass every once in a while. But that was about it back then. Maybe Brent Holland had a JFK show on once in a blue moon. But he goes into talking about werewolves and aliens and vampires and shit like that a lot. So when me and Doug were talking as two people who met in a online JFK forum, we were both young guys. We share a common interest in the assassination and other things, music, and we got to talking, and we became really, really good friends. And we were talking about we both like to listen to Black Op, and I think we both even had one of our questions read the same week, and we were excited about that, and just stupid stuff. But we basically thought, hey, it'd be really cool to do a show that's about the assassination, but it's not like Black Op. Len is a great guy. We talked to him when we were first trying to start all this stuff, and he, trying to get a feeling for how things go, and maybe get any advice that he might want to give us, and things of this nature. And I've had no problem with Leno Sanic over the years, and I consider him a friend in the community who's done a lot and contributed a lot to this community. And you can't take that away from Black Op Radio for being there for forever. I mean, dude's in the 800s in his shows, and it's crazy. It's for somebody to do that long, that dedicated to it. Awesome, But one thing lacking from Black Op Radio is, um, I guess, opinions. When I listen to radio, when I want to hear a host, I don't want to just hear the bottom line. I just don't want to hear an author drone on for 2 hours. I like to be able to interact, ask questions, give opinions, have a conversation. And while Len is great at what he does, he allows his guests to speak without interruption, and that's awesome. But I also like for the host to have an opinion about things, to give us some insight about things that they've learned and gleaned over the years. Um, and we talk to folks like Lynn. We talk to folks like Popeye from Federal Jack and Down the Rabbit Hole, who gave us some really sage advice, because we wanted to dip our toe in the water. We wanted to try this out. And at the time, I don't think either one of us really knew the real dedication that it takes to do this kind of show, both technically and, logistically and literally. um, I've dumped a ton of hours of my life that I will never get back into this show, and I don't mind one bit because it was a labor of love. I didn't start doing the show, to become a millionaire and retire, but because believe me, that's not what happens. Okay. And, you do have expenses, and look, believe me, there's nothing that I appreciate more than the listeners that did help me out throughout the years. Um, I'm not gonna sit here and name everybody by name, but you know who you are. You're my friends. It's people I talk to on a regular basis. They know that I appreciate everything they do for the show. Um, a couple that I will mention, just because they have things going on that I would like, for you to support because they help support me. Uh, my buddy John Titus over at covertbookreport.com. Some really great articles all the time. Check it out, covertbookreport.com. Chuck Ocelli and, of course, Carmine Savastano over at Neapolis Media Group, who's been a huge supporter. He's one of my most frequent guests on the show. He's very knowledgeable on things. Of course, Chuck's over on AFR, American Freedom Radio. And great guys. Nothing but love, man. I've been on Chuck's show. Carmine goes on his show all the time. Carmine would come on my show without hesitation. If I needed a guest at the last minute, I'd be like, Carmine, dude, I need you. Come on the show. We're going to be talking about this, this, and that. Are you cool with that? Yep. Okay, good. Most of the time we would plan it out, but there'd be times when, hey, can you do the show this weekend? Sure. No problem, man. I got you. Okay, cool. It would work out. Of course, I was able to do a show by myself and carry the weight, no problem, without a guest, which I did several times. And that's just giving you guys my opinions on what things that I've read, things that I've ran across, things that I've watched. There's been a lot of stuff on the Kennedy assassination come out. This little Lee Harvey Oswald documentary that the History Channel just ran, and then I guess they dumped it after 2 episodes because it was such horse shit, CIA backed bullshit, and trying to pin it on Cuba and this and trying to say that these are brand new documents never before seen and blah, bullshit. Bullshit, bullshit. And they got called on their bullshit. And guess what? They pulled the last 4 episodes of the series. Now, whether or not we're ever going to see them, I don't know. But episode 3 never aired. So they still have 3, 4, 5, and 6. That's 4 more episodes, supposedly. But I think they caught so much flack just for, I'm sorry, you can't have legitimately former CIA employees who've been touting this, Castro did it thing for years, in internal memos and internal uh, publications and just, it, there were whole rough Russian revelations. It's all known. It's all been known for years, and they're trying to treat it like it's some kind of new revelation. Sorry, it's been around for a while. Um, Oleg Nechapenko wrote Passport to Assassination back in the early 90s, and he was one of the guys that worked in the Russian uh, embassy in Mexico City when Oswald supposedly went there. All this stuff. It's been out for years. There's trust me, there's nothing new. For these guys to come along and think that they've got something new, brand new, that they're going to lay on us, I'm sorry, but there's way too many hardcore, and I'm not one of them, hardcore JFK researchers out there who would have and already did have ran across a lot of this information. Guys like John Newman, um, people that live in the archive. Just go. I don't know what they thought they were trying to pull, but you're not going to get away with that kind of stuff, especially in the JFK research community. It's just not going to happen. Sorry, History Channel, and we all know the direction they've been going in the past few years. So none of that is new. And then last year, we had the Stephen King miniseries, 11/22/63, which I thought was great from an entertainment standpoint. I really enjoyed the show. So much so, I've recently ordered the Blu-ray of the entire episode or the entire miniseries, and I'm watching it again. I loved it. Loved it. I like James Franco. I don't know why he makes me laugh, but some of his serious stuff I dig too. Um, and the imagery of the times and the cars and I just really dug it, and I thought it was well done. I'm sure it didn't stick to the book. It just didn't stick to factual reality historically, um, or what most people believe happened in the assassination. The basic premise of the book and the miniseries is to go back and stop Lee Harvey Oswald from killing Kennedy. But and a lot of people don't believe that that's how it went. But it is what it is. I took it for what it is, and that's entertainment. Um, there's still new books coming out. This is the year we get the archives to release the rest of the files, unless Trump stops it, which I doubt he will, since he's a big conspiracy theorist at heart. I doubt Trump will block that. If he does, then that just shows you guys who's really pulling the strings in Washington, D.C. So there is upside on the horizon. Some very exciting things coming about. JFK would have been 100 years old had he lived this month, at the end of the month. That's crazy to think about. Oswald would have been, 70, born in 38, 2018. Maybe almost 80, I guess, then, right? I don't know. I'm horrible at math. 38 and 70, that'd be 2008. Yeah, he'd be 80, almost 80. It's crazy. Crazy to think about. And we still have these people that are alive. Ruth Payne, and there's a guy doing a documentary on Ruth Payne. They got to interview her. Of course, from the clips that I've seen, I think he was doing a Kickstarter campaign to get this documentary out. It's called The Assassination of Mrs. Payne or something to that effect. I was going to have him on the show, or if I was still doing the show, he was piquing my interest enough to ask him if he would like to come on the show, if I was still doing it. But I think the Kickstarter ran out April 22nd. And I'm not sure if he ever met his goal or not. I think he said if he didn't meet the goal, then this project would never see the light of day, which is a shame. If guys like that should have more support in the community. They should seek out people like me, Doug, Black Op, to get the word out there to the assassination community. There's a lot of people with deep pockets who would have helped him out, I believe, if they would have even known about this. But that's not my business. I would have asked him if I was still doing the show, and I think he would have been a cool guest. But I think the gist of the whole thing was that, of course, Ruth Payne's not admitting to anything. Of course, she's confronted with the hard questions, which is good. Like, was she a babysitter for Oswald? Was she working for the CIA? Of course, she's not going to admit any of this stuff is true. Even now, late in life, like this, we got Robert Oswald still alive. We have Marina Oswald still alive. We have Buell Frazier still alive. We have Lee Harvey Oswald's children, Rachel and June, still alive. We have all of his grandchildren out there still alive. Who maybe would someday take an interest in, either clearing their father's name or their grandfather's name. We got a little bit of that from Rachel and June in the mid '90s. Didn't really go anywhere. I'm sure it's been a rough life for them to be the daughters of the accused assassin of the president. That's not something you want to wear around on your electric shirt. But they also need to realize that while Lee Harvey Oswald may have been convicted in the eyes of the world, he never was convicted in a court of law. And there are many, 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 many questions when it comes to, was he actually involved? Did he actually do it? What did he know? This and that. And I know if it was my father that was accused of this, you couldn't stop me from digging and trying to clear his name. But that's just me. Maybe they want nothing to do with it. I don't know. But anyway, I digress. I'm getting away from the crux of what I wanted to talk about here. So anyway, me and Doug wanted to start a show together, but logistically at the time, it was pretty much impossible for us to do together. More easy for us to do separately and to kind of do our own thing. And since we started doing our respective podcasts, there have been a lot of shows pop up. Okay, when it comes to assassination related radio. You have JFK Facts and Jefferson Morley and his podcast, and Alan Dale. You got the Russ Baker Who What Why podcast. You have the ROKC doing their own podcast for their forum. The list goes on and on. There's a ton of choices out there for you guys to listen to when it comes to assassination talk. Way more than when we first started doing this. This show has afforded me the opportunity to go places, to meet interesting people, to make new acquaintances and friends in the community and in life. When I talk to somebody like Carmine, it's just not about JFK. We talk about life. We talk about what's going on in our lives. We talk about how we're doing. Um, and it's good to have friends like that. When I talk to Doug, we might talk about some stuff, but it's generally more about life and what's going on with what we have going on. Um, it's not all JFK all the time. Um, and trust me, I'm not going to disappear from the JFK community. It's just that this show, as you know it, is stopping at this point in time because it's time for it to stop. There's many, many other choices out there now doing good things and sounding great. And I don't need to do this show anymore. I've gotten everything that was on my chest off my chest. This show will stand in perpetuity in the Spreaker archives for God knows how long, till the server goes to shit. I don't know. But my archives aren't going anywhere. They'll always be at Spreaker, as far as I know. Which means that they'll always be on iTunes, which means that they'll still be out there somewhere, somehow. It's just that I won't be doing any more new episodes of this show. There's other stuff that I'm interested in. There's other stuff in this life that I want to research. There's other stuff in this life that I want to talk about that interests me. And I guess the whole JFK phase is passing. And that's not saying I'm going to give up podcasting altogether. I'm trying to work and develop something new. So this is not going to be the last time you hear from me on the air, as it were. It just might be a little while, because the next project that I do, I want to do right. I want it to be awesome. I want it to be successful. And I want to take everything that I've learned these past 3 years and really apply it and learn from it and make this next show something that I'm proud of, something that I would listen to, something to really, be entertaining. And because, the Lone Gunman podcast doesn't cast a very wide net. It appeals to a very, very small percentile of the mainstream population. And it's not like I can come on this show and talk about something else that I'm interested in, because this show is about the Kennedy assassination. That's all it's about. That's it. It's very narrowly focused. And for me to come on here and start talking about other things wouldn't be fair to my loyal listeners. Wouldn't be fair to the JFK community, because that's not what this show is about. This show is about the Kennedy assassination. This show is, where research comes to shine and myths come to die. This is what this show is about. This show is not about something else. And I am a very, very rabid consumer of podcasts. Most of you know out there, I drive a lot every day for my job, and I have lots of time to listen to radio, to various podcasts, and I know what I like. I know what interests me. I know what entertains me, and I'm still getting emails from people. Hey man, just checking on you. Want to make sure everything's okay, that you're good. How blah blah blah. You love the show. Wish you were back. This, that, and the other, which is awesome. It's good to know that what I did for 3 years reached so many people, and that they dug it. That they enjoyed it, that they learned from it, and that makes me feel good, and that makes it all worth it. You know what I'm saying? It makes it all worth it. because I started this show for very, very selfish reasons. That I had all this shit in my head and nobody to talk to about it. So I figured, what better way than just to get on, have my own show, and just empty my brain, you know, and talk about some of this stuff, hash it out, learn, get some people on here, talk about other stuff, learn some stuff. I've had some amazing guests on this show in the 3 years that I've done it. I've had authors on, of course. I've had filmmakers on. Uh, I've had, real life Minutemen from the 60s on this show. Keith Gilbert and Robert Taylor. Um, Scholars. Just you name it, regular people that are just interested in the Kennedy assassination and have done their own research. And that's my favorite kind of people to talk to because they're just like me. I understand them. I know where they're coming from. And if you have something to say and you have the evidence to back it up, and I want to hear about it, because there's lots of people out there looking into the assassination still to this day. That are sitting on a ton of information that have no way to get it out to the public. I guarantee you, 40% of JFK researchers don't even get online. They don't participate in forums or on Facebook. And they've just been, doing their thing for 30 or 40 years. You run into it all the time. Nobody ever heard of Dr. Jeffrey Caulfield until, 2 years ago when his book on General Walker came out. He'd been researching the case for 25 years, behind the scenes, off the radar. And when John Armstrong was doing his stuff, that's what he was doing, off the radar, until he wrote a book. Here's the information. Nowadays, with the internet and the way that we can share information, it doesn't have to be a 1,000-page book. We can drop knowledge instantly on thousands of people and get feedback. And that's part of what the show was about too. Say, hey, I have an idea. Here is my idea. Here's why I believe this idea. Here's what I can give you to back up why I think about this idea. Tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me where I'm wrong. And one of the unique things about my show that I still love today is that I don't care what side of the fence you're on when it comes to researching the Kennedy assassination, as long as you go about it honestly. As long as you go about it honestly and you are sane and you're able to have a conversation about it and hold up your end of the conversation with some kind of facts about why you believe what you believe. That I could have people on here who were lone nutters. I could have a conversation with them. An intelligent, sane, respectful conversation. Those were some of my favorite shows. With the exception of maybe one. Okay. And I still didn't think that was that bad. It's just, well, I'll just let that go. There's another one who had a foray into the podcasting business and realized pretty much relatively quickly how hard it is and that anybody just can't do this. Either you're going to do it and stick with it, or you get a couple episodes in and say, this is way, way more harder than I thought. Trust me, that's happened too. People think it's so easy to get on here and ramble on for an hour, or to talk about a specific subject, or to conduct an interview, and do it on a weekly basis. It's not as easy as it sounds for people. Uh, but anyway, so that's the crux of why the show evolved into what it was. And of course, as time went on, my early shows were rough, and we're still trying to figure stuff out, and technically, and with sound, and logistically with guests, and I think it evolved nicely into, from me just by myself, uh, going on for half an hour, or whatever it was back then, onto a longer format, more technologically capable, to where I could incorporate stuff from guests. And I was really digging how the show was going last year. It was awesome. And then everything come a crashing down, uh, right back around Christmas. And I did one of the best shows I thought I'd ever done with Stu Wexler, and it broke my heart to listen to that show back, because it was like catching lightning in a bottle. Like, yeah, I could have said, "Hey, Stu, you're echoing through the whole damn show. We need to do it over." But it would not have been as good as it was. And look, trust me, some of my guests, I had to do the show with them 2 or 3 times because of technical difficulties, stuff you never knew about. But you get into a show and be like, "Oh shit, it's not recording," and we're half an hour in. I'm talking to this guy for half an hour, and I look like a gigantic Rubik's asshole. Hey, can we start over again? My thing wasn't recording. It looks like amateur hour at at the Rainbow Road. But frustrating things like that are going to happen if you do this long enough. And not much can technically go wrong. Like right now, when I'm by myself, I'm plugged directly into Spreaker, and I'm speaking to you into my wired microphone. Not much can go wrong right now. But when you start involving a computer, the internet, Skype recorders, um, this, that, and the other, somebody living in, on the other side of the world, when you're trying to coordinate something to talk, it's rough. It's rough. But I had a lot of fun doing it. I wouldn't change anything. I wouldn't change a thing. I loved doing the show. I loved all the support from the listeners and my friends. You know who you are. I trust me, I can't even begin to sit here and name off everybody individually, because I will end up forgetting somebody, and that wouldn't be right either. But you know who you are. I probably still talk to you on a regular basis. Or you can find me on Facebook. You can send me an email. I try to answer all my stuff. It might take me a little while to get there, but I'll get there eventually. I've had people offer technical help with the show and hosting and this, that, and the other. And, it's great. It's great, man. To get to a level to where you get a little bit of respect, for what you do and how you compose yourself and how you conduct your business. And, when I got on, because I've never really been big into the forums. I mean, that's like for the big swinging Dick Willies and Jim DiEugenios of the world to get on there and, go balls in on, the forums. I just don't. I just don't have the time to dedicate myself like that as a researcher. And I got nothing but respect. If you got time to do that, to look into this case, 10 hours a day, and live in the archives, and just constantly research, more power to you. You know what I'm saying? I can't do that. When I first got into the Facebook groups, probably 5 years or so ago, I was just a nobody with an opinion, pretty much. I had a very vocal opinion. I was like, if you're going to do this, just do it. Just anywhere you see that you can jump in, jump in. I lurked for a little while in some of these groups just to see how people conducted themselves, to see what they were talking about. And then it came time to jump in. Um, Hell, I still get frustrated in some of these groups. Um, because it's cyclical. You'll come back around to the Zapruder film, the ballistics, and arguing with people incessantly, and all the little bullcrap fighting. You got all the noobs coming in who think they found something so awesome and so great, and it's the 180th time you've seen it, and on and on. And look, just today on Facebook, just today, a buddy of mine, and I've known this guy. I'm not going to name him. I've known this guy for a couple years on Facebook. Not really in the JFK community, but when it comes to other stuff, other conspiracy related stuff. And he just posted today a picture, and I think I've mentioned it on the show before. Y'all have heard of the what is that? The Mandela effect. Where some people remember things in history a little different than other people. Like the Berenstain Bears being spelled Stain, and like when I was growing up, I could have swore that the Berenstain Bears, it was always spelled Stein, but apparently it wasn't. The whole time it was the Berenstain Bears. That's the Mandela effect in a nutshell. Okay, well, some people try to apply it to the Kennedy assassination. And the guy I'm talking about, he posted two pictures. Because according to him, in his memory of the Kennedy assassination, now he's not a JFK researcher by any means, but of course he's generally interested in conspiracy stuff. So of course he's probably there's another word. He may have, glanced at it a few times, but he always says that he only remembers seeing 4 people in the assassination limo. Anybody that's looked into this case knows that is not not at all correct. We have testimony from the time of Connolly of 6 people in the limo. Connolly and his wife, JFK and his wife, and the 2 Secret Service agents in the front, Kellerman and Greer. 6 people all the time. 2 jump seats, the back seat, and the front seats. Well, this guy remembers it as 2 Secret Service guys in front and Kennedy and his wife in the back. And that's it. The 4-seat limo. Well, he posts a picture that he found on the internet somewhere, I don't know where, of the assassination from a view that I could best describe to you as if it were a real picture. It would have had to have been taken likely from the Dow Tex fire escape at about the 2nd or the 3rd floor. An unobstructed, close-up view from the back of the limo going down Elm Street. To me, it was obviously not a real picture from the assassination. Obviously, to me, it was from some kind of reenactment, TV show or movie, something to that effect. But even still, and this is what he posted to support his argument of 4 people in the car, you could quite clearly see, because I understand why he might have thought that there was only 4 people in the limo, because as soon as Connolly gets shot, and JFK is shot for the first time, Connolly very quickly disappears into his wife's lap, and they are laying down pretty much inside the limo. And you can't see them in certain parts of the Zapruder film because they are laying down. And in some photos, you can't see because they have already been shot. Connolly's been shot, and his wife pulls him down, and she goes down too. I understand why some people might confuse their memory with remembering only seeing 4 people in the limo, but there's always been 6 people in the limo. Just things like that. He wasn't defending his position very well. He was just stating, well, this is how I remembered it. I finally saw a photo to where this is how I remember it. But it wasn't an accurate assassination photo. It wasn't a historical, factual photo. It was from a reenactment. So just even to this day, you still run into this stuff. Judith Baker's still putting on conferences, still coming out with books. Ralph Sinkay is still plying his bullshit about Jack Ruby imposters and underwear and handcuffs and this, that, and the other in the doorway. Richard Hook is still espousing James Files was behind everything and was a shooter on the knoll. And still to this day, you have nonsense and horse shit like this that you got to deal with on a daily basis, that you got to see on a daily basis because they're heavily posting this stuff around the internet, relentlessly posting this stuff around the internet. And before people like me and Carmine and Chuck and other folks came along, they were doing this stuff unopposed. So that people maybe new to the assassination, they would get in these groups, and this is what they see. They see Ralph Sinkay posting this crap. They see Richard Hook posting this crap all the time. And they think it's true. Because, it's all about photo manipulation. There's no facts. There's no evidence backing this stuff up. It's all photoshopped crap and lines drawn all over everything. And it's just nonsense. But to the untrained eye and to those maybe new to the thing who want to believe in some kind of crazy conspiracy theory, who want to believe that they've solved the case and Oswald was on the front steps and there's no way he could have been shooting if he was down on the front steps. It had to be him. This case is solved. Pat me on the back and spank my ass and send me on my way. There was always like I don't know how to explain it, like a professional courtesy or a collegiate attitude when it comes to researchers, where you didn't really want to badmouth people in public or on the radio about their bullshit. But I'd like to think that we changed that landscape a little bit and called into question a lot of this stuff and the myths and the misinformation that's out there concerning the case, because ultimately, to get to the heart of the truth of the Kennedy assassination, you have to cancel out a lot of the noise, because it can be very distracting. When Beverly Oliver is sitting here saying, I saw Roscoe White on the grassy knoll. I saw Oswald in the Carousel Club. I did this. I did this. I did that. Shot this with the Yashica. And you say, wait a minute. Hold on. Back up. Okay, if what you're saying is true, then you need to prove that you were there that day. You need to have some kind of proof of anything. Okay, other than just, hey, I was there, I saw this, you better believe me because I'm telling the truth. Sorry, to me that holds zero weight. Zero weight. That's noise. It's something that can't be proven. It's some fantastical story that likes to change often, and can't be corroborated by anybody. I put zero weight in Beverly Oliver. I put zero weight in Judith Baker. I put zero weight in James Files. There's a lot of things that I put zero weight in because there's just no evidence or corroborative anything to prove anything that these people were saying. Yes, they are fantastical stories. Yes, it would be great. It would make a great movie. Yes, it would make a great book. You know, if Judith Baker would have just labeled her book as fiction, you know, hey, awesome book. You know what I'm saying? Good job. If she had just come out as a researcher who happened to write a fictionalized account of, meeting Lee Harvey Oswald and this love story, that'd have been fantastic. But that's not how it happened. She wants to go into this fantastical love story and this, that, and the other, none of which can be corroborated or proven or is backed up by any kind of evidence or anything in the actual factual record of things. You know, canceling out all this bullshit and noise is essential and key to finding the truth of what happened in the assassination. People say, well, you can't prove any of this stuff. Well, actually, that's not true. People say, well, you can't trust the CIA and these documents and this and that. Well, hey, you know what? That's not true either. Because I guarantee you, the CIA never believed for a second that any of this shit would become public record. Back then in the early 60s, they were operating with autonomous capacity and were doing whatever the hell they wanted to do. They never thought that they would have to come out with their files and explain anything. And to a point, they're right. Here we are, almost 54 years later. And the CIA is still sitting on documents that they don't have to release to us, as long as they are deemed prudent to national security. What difference does it make? 54 years ago, national security. But they can hide under that banner as long as they want to. National security purposes. National security purposes. And you know what? I've often thought, when somebody kills a president like that in broad daylight in an American city, and a lot of people have egg on their face. A lot of people, because Oswald was doing this fair play for Castro or fair play for Cuba stuff, and going to Mexico, supposedly going to Mexico City, supporting Castro and being a Russian defector and this and that, when it was the CIA's job to watch people like him if he wasn't working for them. And here he is coming back to the United States and supposedly killing the president in broad daylight in the middle of a street in a United States town under the protection of the Secret Service. And initially getting away with it. That's the thing. Had this whole Tippit thing never happened, can you imagine if Lee Oswald would have supposedly gotten away with it? Or whoever shot at him got away with it? And the murder was never solved? But now, you got to think about this. The FBI, This was their turf. Okay, the CIA is not supposed to operate inside of the United States. They are supposed to be a foreign intelligence agency. But now what they should have done is pass their information, say, hey, FBI, Hoover, we picked up this guy, a returned defector. He's got a Russian wife. You might want to watch this guy. He's doing this, he's doing that. Now the ball's in your court, Hoover, FBI. And then this happens in Dallas. Who let this guy slip through their fingers? Who wasn't watching this guy? And then suddenly now we have to save face. Now we have to, come up with excuses. Now we have to do this. Now we have to do that. A lot of covering your ass. A lot of blame. And, here we sit 54 years later still wondering what the hell happened. The truth. What is the truth of what happened? Was it Oswald? Was it? I've uncovered a lot of interesting tidbits on this show. And talked to a lot of interesting people. Guys like Bart Camp, Richard Gilbride, and I know those two don't like each other, but both independently have done a lot of work on the case, and important work. And ultimately, we don't have to like what everybody else does. It's just, we take a piece from here and a piece from there, and finally the puzzle starts to take shape. And hopefully, eventually, we have a complete puzzle where we know all the pieces and where they fit. But we're not there yet. We know a lot more than we did 50 years ago. We know a lot more than we did 25 years ago. But of course, all this extra information makes things all the more confusing. Because a lot of people like to look into this case. A lot of people like to insert their opinions in this case. A lot of misinformation gets espoused in this case and becomes lore and supposed fact that needs to be debunked later on. And the guys, Chuck over on his show is still doing the Myth Show, which I think, if you haven't heard any of the myths shows over on the Ocelli Effect on American Freedom Radio, you should really head over to Ocelli.com and check out the archives, and or on YouTube. Just type in Ocelli Myths in YouTube. You'll find the shows. I've been on a few of them. It really helps to get the proper historical record on a lot of these people and give you the entire picture of some of these folks and what you can believe from them, what you shouldn't believe from them, and why. Because guys like Tosh Plumley, they can talk all day about, it's on this abort team and blah, 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 and prove it. Prove it. Show us the documents. You were doing this for the CIA? Okay, where's the internal memos? Where's the CIA documents? Where is it? Who was with you? Can you prove it? Can you prove so-and-so was with you? You need more. It's a great story, but ultimately we need more. And that's what I'm trying to get at here. A lot of people have a lot of great stories about the assassination and their supposed involvement in it, but without evidence and corroborative testimony and documents. It's just a story. And I don't put my faith in stories. I don't base my truth around somebody else's stories. I just can't do it. That's not being honest, and that's being lazy. Honestly, if you just believe wholeheartedly in things like that without taking the time to even look or Google something, then you're a lazy researcher. That's not even being a researcher. That's just being a lazy sheep, a blind sheep. And I got no time for people like that. No time whatsoever. I've done my arguing. I've wasted my time with these people. Trust me, you're not going to change their mind. You're not. Ralston K gets bashed on a regular basis by like 3 or 4 bloggers a day. He's been bashed on my show endlessly. He's bashed on Facebook like a freaking redheaded stepchild, and he's still making 6 posts a day on his blog spot about how it's a fake Jack Ruby. And I mean, it's just retarded how deep this stuff goes. But you're never going to change these people's minds. They're nasty. They're spiteful. They want to be right. They want to think that they've solved the case. They want to be right. And they'll manufacture evidence, supposed evidence, to prove it. They'll doctor photographs. They'll lie. They'll make shit up. And you need to realize that about, this community. I'd say 90% of the researchers out there have a good intention. We all want the same thing. We all want the truth. Just how you get there and being honest about it. But anyway, I've rambled enough. You know how I feel. I've had a great time doing the show. I wouldn't change anything. Great friends. And it's not the last you'll hear from me. I will, still do guest appearances on other people's shows. For and you have lots of choices out there now to listen to. And to me, they're all doing good work. We need them all. The more the merrier. I'll take it. We have much more diverse listening options when it comes to, assassination conversation, and that's awesome. To quote Doug Campbell, awesome. Like I said, the more the merrier. Bring it on. You just got to choose carefully what you listen to and what you like. That's it. It's pretty simple. So once again, thank you to everybody out there who has supported this show throughout the years. It's afforded me wondrous things, much more than I deserve, and I've had a blast doing the show. I think my brain is finally empty. I've looked into just about everything 20 different ways from Sunday. And I have my own conclusions. I have my suspicions. And I'm sure everybody else does too. They're all based on where we're at personally and our own journey of research. We haven't all looked into the same things for the same amount of time. We're all at different places in our research, and where I'm at, I'm satisfied that I am pretty sure that I know what happened that day. Now, can I prove it? No. Some of the stuff nobody's ever going to be able to prove. Just people are dead. People are dead and gone and forgotten about. The 2 things I'm going to leave you with on this show that I think are important, and this is just my opinion. Well, actually, 3 things. The First one being Buell Frazier. You can hear me on Chuck Ocelli's show talk about him. I've done other shows about him and my feelings on him. In a nutshell, I don't think he's been completely honest with us. I think he was a scared 19-year-old kid, and I think he went into self-preservation mode on November 22nd, 1963, which I don't blame him for. You know, if you're being accused of being a accomplice to murdering the president, I know I would do anything to get out of it. So I don't really necessarily blame him. But this far on, it's time for the truth to come out. And there's been little indications over the years that he's lying about what happened that day. And you know, if you want to know more, just go back and listen to the show that I was on. I was on Chuck Ocelli. I think it was actually episode 137, the one right before this one that I posted. The Ocelli or the Clark on Frazier on Ocelli show. It's 2 hours of me and Chuck talking nothing but Buell Frazier. And there's some very interesting tidbits that you people need to know about if you haven't heard about him yet. I think he's a very important figure in when it comes to figuring out the truth of what happened that day. And that's all I'm going to say about that. The second one being Larry Crayford. Why is he important? He's important for a number of reasons. I think he's responsible for a lot of the alleged Oswald Ruby sightings of them together. Of supposedly Oswald having Ruby's car and taking it here, there, or everywhere. I mean, he was Jack Ruby's little bitch boy. Sure, he's going to take Jack Ruby's car to the mechanic and get it fixed and things of this nature. He was his boy Friday. And he looked a lot like Oswald. Now, was this coincidence or was it some kind of a plan? That's where things get interesting. Why did Larry Crayford suddenly leave town the next day? That's interesting too. And when you come to look into Crayford's life a little bit more, and you find out that that he was a hitman in like 1960, 61 in San Francisco. He was former Army, former military in the Army at the same time as General Walker was in Germany. They were both in Germany. Walker was the High Commander General of Germany, and propagandizing his the guys he's in charge of in the Army with this communist shit. It's a coincidence that he was there and all this happened, and he just happened to look like Oswald, and he just happened to be in the Army at the same time as General Walker was propagandizing these recruits. That he was capable of killing people. That Tippit was killed execution style, like mobster style. 3 shots to the chest and 1 to the head to make sure. And it's just, the list goes on and on. He's very important to look at. Can we prove it? No. He's been dead since 2011, and not many researchers were on the Crayford bandwagon. They didn't really put 2 and 2 together or realize how important he was. Now, the early guys, I will give credit to guys like Joachim Jostin, who did. Before the Warren Commission even came out, his book came out and was blaming Larry Crayford for a lot of this stuff. The HSCA couldn't find Larry Crayford because he spelled his name differently by 1 letter. It took one researcher, I think, managed to track Crayford down in the 90s and actually interviewed him. And interesting stuff. When you find out these little tidbits of information, there's definitely something else to look into. And I would encourage all of my listeners and anybody interested in the case to do so more. Bill Frazier, Larry Crayford. And the last one I'm going to leave you with is the possible Jack Ruby, General Walker connection. I was listening to Doug's newest show, which was on Ruby and Oswald knowing each other. And you sit there and I'm listening to the show, and I'm hearing it, and I'm thinking in my brain, okay, well, Oswald supposedly had Ruby's car, this and that, but I'm pretty sure that was probably Larry Crayford's mistaken identity. And then he goes to talk about the letter from General Walker to Reverend Hargis, who he was doing the midnight ride with, and they were talking about Jack Ruby, dying in the hospital and leaving the hospital in a box, and wanting to make sure they're watching Demorne Shield when he comes back into town to see who he's staying with and what he's doing. Very suspicious behavior. Something about after Ruby's dead, he's the only obstacle to prevent things from being blamed on the right wing. Because when people looked at Ruby, they thought, okay, organized crime, because of the type of person that he was. But a lot of people don't know that Jack Ruby was a vehement anti-communist. He had very much right-wing anti-communist ideals. I mean, there's some even say that he was informing for the House. What was it? Something in the House thing on un-American activities. That he was, informing on that. He allegedly knew Castro's gun runner. Allegedly, he went to Cuba and was trying to run guns to Cuba, jeeps to Cuba. God knows what Ruby was involved in. But he was very, very anti-communist. Very much, ideally, in the same camp as General Walker. And then you run across testimony from, one of Walker's buddies, William Duff, who stated that, he had seen Ruby come to Walker's house multiple times, and that they would meet behind closed doors before the assassination. So it takes you down all these various roads and speculation as to what in the Sam hell was going on back then. That's the biggest things that jump out to me that I've covered on the show, and of course the important work that Bart Camp's been doing with the prayer man stuff and the second floor lunchroom encounter. It's hard to argue with this stuff. It's right there in black and white. And what I like about what Bart does is he uses documents, he uses newspaper articles from the time that people relayed to these reporters, and that they put in the newspaper that this is what was said on this day to this reporter, and it gives you a very, very different picture than what the Warren Commission paints. And it's all important. It's all important. The guys over at ROKC are doing great work on the case. So if you want to stay up with the latest and greatest on JFK research, check out the Reopen Kennedy Case Forum. Greg Parker and those guys do great work over there. Just really in-depth and smart research. And new stuff like you don't run into anywhere else. Trust me, it's not the same old, same old. Uh, it's always new stuff. So check that out, and just keep looking, keep searching. If it's in your heart that you really, really want to know the truth about what happened, then keep digging. That's my best advice I can give you is keep digging. Don't take anything anybody says lightly. Make sure you do your own research. Look into things for yourself. Come to your own conclusions. You know, just because you hear on my show or anybody's show or because Joe Smosh said this in a book, do your own research. Take what we give you. If I tell you, okay, look, Bill Frazier said this to the HSCA, the very important piece of information that was relayed in that episode. What does this mean? Can we corroborate this? Is it true? What did Oswald's other co-workers say about him? Really look into the testimony of the other workers in the depository, and not just the Warren Commission reports. Look at the HSCA. Look at various other interviews, newspaper interviews, other outlets, and you got to put all this stuff together. Because what Charles Gibbons told, the Warren Commission differs greatly from what Charles Gibbons told the HSCA. It's things like that. Things are very, very different. When you might have so many years pass and this, that, and the other. It is what it is. And you got to take all this stuff into consideration when you're trying to get to the truth of things. And of course, brainstorming with your friends is a great way to figure things out. And with people that don't think the same as you. That's why I don't mind talking to lone nutters. Because I can lay this out and say, okay, look, right here, from the horse's mouth, we have Larry Crayford saying this. Okay, tell me where I'm wrong. And I'll lay it out. Say, okay, look, this is why I think that Larry Crayford shot Tippit, not Oswald. And here's why. Tell me where I'm wrong. Then we can argue about timing. Then we can argue about if Oswald could have made it down there or not by then. Then we can argue about whether two people who fit Oswald's description were seen in the theater. Then we can, this, that, and the other, and get there. But anyway, I just wanted to say what I wanted to say one last time and leave you guys, not leave you hanging, but leave you with much appreciation and gratitude for indulging me these past 3 years, listening to the show, supporting the show, sharing the show, and just interacting with me on a personal basis and becoming my friends. There's nothing greater in this life. We're only here for a short time, and make the most of it. If you're going to go into it, get into it, balls deep. Make a difference. Make a contribution, that nobody's made before. Make your mark. I was a nobody, a jackhole nobody 3 years ago. Now, I guarantee you, it blew my mind that most, people like Doug Horn and all these other folks that I've never even heard, they know about my show. They've heard my show. They know who I am. And that's crazy to me. People that I respect and hold in a much, much higher light than than myself. You know, when they tell me, "Oh yeah, I've heard of your show. I've heard of your show." Craziness blows my mind all the time, every time, because I was just a guy sitting in his car talking into his phone for a long time, and I would get so excited when 10 people would listen to my show. And that grew into thousands a week listening to the show. And I have nobody to thank except for you folks who took your time to listen to the show and become involved in the show and really get behind me and support what I was trying to do. And I appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. It means the world to me that something that I believe so much in was supported by you guys. Sure, there's the haters, but you know what? Fuck them. Fuck the haters. Let them hate. If you don't like what I'm saying, start your own goddamn podcast and come after me. You know what I'm saying? But you better be able to back it up, Jack. Because I guarantee you, anything that I've ever said about anybody on this podcast negatively, I can back it up 100%, even in a court of law. So bring it. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, on that note, folks, this is the Swan Song. I'm out. I've had a great time. It's been an awesome ride. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't thank you guys enough for supporting me and being there and listening and, enjoy the archives, people. And keep listening to my friends, guys like Chuck and Doug and Lynn and Alan, Brent, Russ, Greg. All these guys have great shows. Check them out. And who knows? The next Lone Gunman Podcast S. There might be another podcast rise from the ashes to take my place. Who knows? Oh, maybe I've inspired somebody out there to get off their ass and take up the mantle. That's all I can ever hope to do. Anyway, people, be safe, love each other, research hard, keep digging. The truth is out there somewhere. Catch you on the flip side, people. It's been a pleasure. One last time. This sumbitch is in the can, beamed up to the satellite, down directly to your ears, people. This is your boy. Out.